Hey guys, what's up? Hope all is going well. This is Shanahan. We're back with another tutorial. This time I wanted to discuss just a basic way to make your buildups kind of create a little more energy towards the drop, because I know a lot of songs that are great, a lot of inboxes I get, they're really good songs, and all of a sudden you get to the drop and the mix down and the way things are flowing and the energy once it hits is just not quite there. And sometimes it's unfortunate because it's a great idea or a great sounding track, and just the mix or this 5% extra balance on the buildup is just not there. So it's a very simple technique that I've been using in my tracks for years that just creates a little more energy on the drop, and it just hits a little bit stronger simply by just a little bit of automation, nothing crazy. Again, make sure your mix down is to the best that you can do first. That's very important. But as far as the effects go, there's a way you can bust them and automate them all together with certain high and low cuts with the EQ to kind of create that 5%, 10% difference that's going to create a more just a harder hitting drop. So I'm going to go through, I just opened up my song Crow, for example, and I'll show you guys exactly what I do on the master and on the individual buses to create a little more energy in the build up and the drop. All right, first off, as I've said in a lot of my tutorials and a lot of my walkthroughs, the most important thing is on the master channel to do a volume adjustment. Now, this might be a little extreme for some tracks. I'm going down 2 dB on the buildup, because you got to remember, as you're building up with sweeps, snare drums, etc., whatever you're using, you have to remember that when you're stacking those are also gaining energy and gaining dB on your overall output. So you have to somehow level those by either doing the master bus automation, or you can actually bus your effects to certain buses and control those individually if you want. But off the bat, the main thing you have to do here is a global automation with the output. So this is what I've chose for this song to make it level without kind of going down too much, because again, you don't want to go down 4 or 5 dB and kind of lose tension and lose energy. You want to make it still feel a little bit level and flat to the listener. But at the end of the day, once this drop hits, it's going to be a lot more harder and thicker, just because it's a simple, very subtle automation. So off the bat, definitely do a volume automation on the master. Then what I usually do on the master channel is add a simple EQ. You can just pick one out of your in the box, whatever you have in the DAW. It doesn't really matter. I cut the high off here, and as the tension is building, I'm gonna sweep out the highs a touch, because especially when you're adding tons of up sweeps and a bunch of effects, you got to remember those have really sharp 10K ranges. So you have to start ducking them out a little bit as the volume gets higher and higher towards the drop. So I'm going to do a volume automation on the master channel with this high cut and just sweep out the highs a little bit and then make sure they slam back up on the drop. Now, the best way to know if you've got pretty much an on-point automation is just go to a very far extreme. I'll go to as far as I can. Usually I start a very extreme number and work back until you hit that sweet spot, because otherwise you won't really know. If you just set it there and you're like, yeah, that's good, you don't really know that. So to go through the whole trial and error thing, try it at an extreme first and then work your way back until you find the sweet spot. So you can see in Logic, you actually can't go on on point there. So I have to bring it out a little bit further, but you can definitely hear the difference. Again, don't go too far because you'll basically kill all the frequencies that are there from the effects. Those need to be there to create that energy. So make sure you're not sucking them out of there. Just all you're doing is taking a little bit off the high, so that once it hits, the whole image just opens up and is a lot fuller. Yeah, so I could sit here for a few more minutes to try to perfect it, but basically this is it in a nutshell. Try that out if you haven't. And then again, now the other way is just doing the opposite. Do the low cut, the same exact thing you're doing, just the opposite with the EQ to take away any frequencies in the snares and effects that you're using. Again, don't go too far, because if you're using those snare drums loading up and stuff, you do want that 200 hertz in the snare and sometimes lower to create that punch. But if you take a little bit of subtlety out of that low as you're building, then in return, right at the drop, it's going to hit a lot harder and kind of give a more of a dramatic effect to the listener, because you're taking out all of those frequencies that are now going to be fuller in the drop. So I'll do the same thing with a low cut, and I'll go basically as high as I want to start at the extreme and kind of work my way back. So yeah, you'd have to really, zoom in as far as you can to get it perfectly right. Work on this for a while on your tracks, because this is very important in the end. You've worked so hard to sound design and mix and master your track. Well, this little 2% change, can really make a difference in a label really loving your track, or just simply passing on it because it's not hitting hard enough, or something's not mixed right. So definitely pay attention to the details. Stuff like this really pays off. So yeah, so we have a low cut and a high cut on the master. Now again, as I said earlier, you can do this on individual buses if you want a little more control, because as you all know, on the master, that's literally everything is going to one output. So you're doing this to every single sound, as you guys know. But if you want a little more control, maybe go down to, let's take this out. We'll take the high cut out, for example. And we'll go down to our effects down here, and you can do it individually. Kind of the same idea. Say we had all these effects here, and I probably have them bust. Yeah, I have them bust over to 3. So I'll solo that. So again, you can just do the same exact idea here, but now you're only controlling the effects. So anything else, maybe you had a vocal buildup, or maybe you had some other snares that are outside of this bus, those will remain having that high frequency. So if you only want to control maybe the sweeps or something, then let's just put it on this bus to control just these 4 sounds here. And then everything else in the song will remain, not high cut. So yeah, same idea. So then you would just automate this bus, effects bus, and then do the exact same thing with the high cut that we did before. Just like I said, now you're just doing it on an individual amount of stems rather than the whole master output. So basically all that does is just give you a little more control over what you want to be, automated. So but yeah, that's it in a nutshell, because it's, like I said earlier, it's just very important to do these subtle automations, because it's really going to make the difference of your track hitting harder or kind of just flatlining at the drop, which is just unfortunate sometimes, especially when you have such a strong idea with the track and there's just this little bit missing on the drop as far as energy and fullness. So sometimes this can be the difference between, the track hitting hard. So just try it out. If you guys have questions, feel free to inbox us. Hopefully this helps. It's a very simple and subtle trick, but if you've already been doing it in your tracks, then continue to keep pushing that. But if you haven't, try it out and let us know how it works. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.